Okay, so what are you saying, people, and welcome back to your favorite YouTube channel. So today, guys, like always, another weekly analysis for you. On the screen are the pairs that we'll be analyzing today, but make sure you do stay to the end of the video because as always, we do have a bonus pair for you. We'll quickly go through my trades for the week and then progress into the analysis shortly after. If there is a particular pair you do want to see my analysis for, feel free to use the timestamps below to skip ahead. We'll go through the DXY as well before we get into the analysis, but first things first, let's talk about pound yen. So I had a couple pound yen shorts, but actually had a bit more than that. I had 3 pound yen shorts this week. 2 didn't play out too well. But let me go to the other broker. But the third one is currently in play and just about in a little bit of profit. But my timing has been a little bit off with the yen pairs. I've been speaking a lot about big shorts coming up for the yen pairs, and I do expect all of them to see a lot of downside from the higher time frames. It does look like the market is turning around, and the bullish trend we've seen for the past couple of years I think is over for the time being. So I'm really heavy on the shorts with pound yen. So I did take a couple of shorts which did get stopped out a little bit premature to the trade. We had some crazy news come in for pound yen, or momentum coming at least for pound yen. Price spiked up high and then it came down really hard, and after that I found my third entry, which is the trade I'm currently sitting in now, in a little bit of profit but still a long way to go. Really hefty stop loss, I think almost 500 pips, so it's a really hefty stop loss. Target does make up for that, 1,200 pips. This is definitely going to be the biggest trade pip wise for me if it does play out. But yeah, very bearish. We come back into the high there, strong rejection. That's effectively my analysis for the week. As long as the market holds that high, I am short. If we start breaking above it and start trending above it, then maybe my analysis was incorrect. But so far, we're doing a good job at respecting it. Really strong daily candle closure there as well. So I'm expecting a lot more downside for pound yen. So I'll be holding that into next week. We'll quickly go through the DXY. So DXY has been interesting as well. I'm not a big fan of the current price action, kind of intra-week, intraday, very choppy stuff. It's a hard read, the DXY. I don't really know if we're breaking below the support or prices kind of bouncing back and forth. It's kind of unsure itself. From a top-down perspective, monthly, weekly, daily, I'm very bearish on the DXY, on the dollar. I do expect a lot more downside for USD in the next coming days, weeks as well. I've really been bearish on USD and I still do see us dropping. I've talked about this low for a while and I do think we'll get there. It's either price will go for a bigger pullback and then make the drop, or we might just slowly dribble to the downside. I'm hoping we do have a short-term pullback for dollar and see some upside, because that will give me some opportunities on euro, pound, Aussie dollar, New Zealand dollar. So I'm hoping those pairs can retrace so I can buy them up at a later date. So I do want to see the dollar push up just because I want to catch a retracement. Whether we'll do that or not, I'm unsure. Price action isn't clear. We might just slowly dribble to the downside and go and hit that low. Unfortunately for me, that might mean I don't get the pullbacks I'm after, but I don't make the calls here for the market. It just moves and I have to analyze along with it. So pretty bearish on USD, expecting a push to this low. In terms of the intra-week, intraday price actions, it's a tough read, so it's basically consolidated. I'm not going to speak too much about that, but all I know is that I'm pretty bearish on USD longer term. So if we get into Euro USD, so Euro USD, of course, I'll be very bullish on this market, and I do expect more upside. Again, I don't really see an opportunity for me to get involved for a buy, so it's been difficult for this one. I mean, well, I was in a buy a couple of weeks ago off here, but I was trailed out for a small profit. Which is unfortunate because it would be nice to hold the trade from here, and I'm kind of hoping to see if we can come back there again. But this is still where I'm expecting Euro USD to push back into the swing high here around 1.125. I do think we can go a lot further, but for now that's a pretty big swing target, so that's where I do expect us to get to before maybe we go through a bigger retracement for Euro. And it kind of lines up with the DXY 99.6 level as well. So what I want to see for Euro in terms of my analysis, in terms of my trading, I want to see a push back down to the low here at 1.1, which will coincide with the dollar pushing back up again for a retracement to come down. So that would be really nice. I've got a couple levels I'm looking at. This low here where I bought from a couple of weeks ago, and this daily high here as well. Should we see a push into 1.1 or 1.095, those would be areas where I'd happily look to swing Euro to the upside from. Whether we get that move or not, that's a different question. I think it's a tough buy. I have been speaking about some breaking retest of this high for euro, which has been okay. And it's found support here, it's pushed up. It's been a messy trade though, because we pushed up, came straight back down, pushed up, straight back down. So it's going to be a quick intraday trade. You're not looking for anything crazy from these areas. But since we're struggling at that high now, I don't think it's a good buy anymore. Price had a couple attempts to try and break through, and both have failed. So for euro, I think it's best just to wait for this one to push down first, so we can find some buys and take it back up again. Maybe even back to this low here, a bit more of an intraday level. But for me, this is really where I'm focused on, around the 1.102 area here. And I think that's a really sensible place for a buy, because you're away from all of the noise, and you're back at some really strong support. You can get a nice stop loss underneath the low, pretty safe. And if that level doesn't hold, I'll look for the same thing just at this level below at 1.095 with similar targets as well, and expecting more upside. But that for me is the most logical trade for euro. It's away from the noise and testing some really strong levels on the daily. So keep an eye on 1.1 and 1.905 for euro next week. Okay, so over to USD JPY. So a really big move to the downside on Friday this week for all the yen pairs, USD JPY included. I talked about two areas where sells look good. I talked about the upper end of the channel here. So first, second, looking for that third test for price to roll over. I said some sells could look good there. We had a slight bounce, but nothing crazy. Price went and broke through. And the second area I talked about was roughly this 146.5, 147 area on the daily chart, which was really nice. Support back over here. Hell's resistance as well. That would be a nice place for a short. Difficult though, because unless you are on the ball, you probably would have missed the trade because it came very quickly and during the Asian session as well. So it's been difficult to catch that trade for the yen pairs, but really strong move to the downside. I'm expecting us naturally just to come right back into the low here around 140. So I think the best way to play this, especially with all that momentum down Friday, is looking for some intraday pullbacks and then looking for some downside. In the lower time frames, hourly, 30, maybe even lower as well. I've marked on a couple areas which look good. So the retest of this low here or the retest of that low, depending how big the pullback will be next week. I think from intraday level, these look good. Get some stop losses above them. You're looking at some really healthy risk rewards should these trades play out. So that's kind of how I would look to tackle dollar yen from intraday level. I think the swing has already been set in motion. Best case scenario, could have got some shorts up here, but yeah, very difficult to catch them, and now the trade's kind of well on its way. So now you're looking for some intraday pullbacks from 142.9, 143 basically, and then 144, 100 roughly, and then yeah, looking at pushback down to that daily low around the big psychological level of 140, which is this mark here. So yeah, really bearish on dollar yen. Really bearish on the yen pairs altogether, looking for some corrections, some retests, and expecting some continuation to the downside next week. Okay, so over to dollar CAD. So dollar CAD, not my favorite pair, I must admit. Out of the USD pairs, I'm really bearish on USD, as I keep saying. But I have the collect few of the USD pairs which I do like. USD CAD is not one of them because it's a bit more choppy, and to be fair, we're kind of trading in a big range as well, and I don't really like taking trades in a big range. But essentially for dollar CAD, I'm looking for a push back to the low here at 1.323 roughly. We had a really strong rejection of the high, so naturally just expecting a push to the low, really nothing more complicated than that. We had a really nice rejection of this level here, and I've been expecting price just to continue to the downside, which we did. We took out the low, and now it looks like price is going through another correction. I've marked out a couple areas which look good for some shorts. First level didn't hold, which was this area here. It had a nice reaction, but didn't last long. Price later went and broke through. I've mapped out the second area as another place to go short. I think the best way to tackle this is still looking at some intraday moves. Because dollar CAD's a bit more choppy pair and we're still in a range, I wouldn't look for really nice, beautiful swings on dollar CAD, because the chances are you won't get it. It's best to kind of look to treat this one kind of intraday and take a profit along the way. Sure, we could open up to a really nice swing back to the low, but there are going to be obstacles, and price doesn't necessarily just move in one direction, especially dollar CAD. It might chop up back and forth before you do see the move, so I'd watch out for that. But the idea is just to see more downside. If dollar is going to be weak anyway, you should see USD CAD fall. So expecting a push back into the low, but I would watch out for areas like such as areas to bank profit, remove risk, trail break even. It's up to you how you want to manage the trade, but I think that's a logical place to look to secure some gains. But yeah, dollar CAD still very short bias, really nice move to the downside, creating new lows. The plan is now looking for that next lower high for some more downside. So keep an eye on this area here, really nice support and resistance down the 4H, probably look for some entries down the hourly around 1.354. And that'll be the bias going into next week for dollar CAD. Okay, so over to euro pound. So euro pound, a lot of downside in the past few days, but we're starting to find a bit of a bottom. I do think there's still a bit more downside. I'm looking for a push into 0.83, which is a really big level on the weekly, monthly chart. You can see massive level of support here around 0.83, monthly, same thing there as well. So massive level of support, which could be a really nice turning point. If you're looking for some long-term buys, actually, that's probably the place to start looking for those opportunities. In the meantime, I still do expect us to drop and see that move to get to 0.83, but effectively we need a nice place to short it from. I've marked out this level of support and this area here as both some really nice places where we could see that next lower high form. We've seen a lot of momentum in the past few weeks as well. If you look at the higher time frames, big move down there, slight pause in the market, correction, another continuation there as well. So again, we're looking for something similar for the market to continue. These levels remain untested really on the higher time frame, so I would like to see euro pound push up, get that retest, and look for entries there just to catch that next lower high. There's your previous lower high. Hopefully that's the new low. Looking for the next lower high, either one of these areas, 0.839, 0.84, and looking to take some entries from there. And you've got a really nice swing trade on your hands there as well. And if we don't get that and the market just kind of sells off to 0.83, because we're not too far away from it now, the market might not go through that retracement before we do get to 0.83. So if that's the case, then we could be looking for some buys straight away next week. Let's say we roll over, look for some double bottoms, some break structures, and then we could be looking at some buys from that weekly, monthly level there as well. So I can play it both sides, just depends which way price moves first. If you move to the upside, got some nice shorts there from 0.839 and 0.84. If you're looking for some buys, looking around the 0.83 area for some reversal patterns. But that's the analysis going into next week for euro pound. Okay, so up next we've got Aussie dollar. So Aussie dollar, another USD pair. I'm really bullish on this one, looking for a push a lot higher. I've marked out a big level on the weekly, monthly chart, which I do expect us to push into, which is back at that high. I'm looking for this to be a big bottom on the monthly chart. We've had a lot of rejection here, a lot of wicks, price, trying to break lower, but the trend looks to be bottoming out. So I do think we're going to start to break higher, tick off some of these areas longer term. But of course, we're not going to speak too much about that now because I don't think anyone's looking to hold a trade for that long. But it's nice to know where we could be going longer term. So if you are looking to swing trades, you can look to hold trades a little bit more aggressively to the upside if we are going to make that move. But for now, 0.705, 0.71 isn't actually too far away. I know this is the monthly chart, but in a couple of weeks we could be trading at that level, so it's not very much of a longer term outlook really, as one may think. But for me, Aussie dollar's looking really bullish, taking out this high here as well. Looks like we're struggling a little bit at that resistance, but I do think we'll just break through and push back to that 0.70571 area. So the plan I have for Aussie dollar is finding those pullbacks. You can see I've marked out some of these swing points: low, high, higher, low. Now we're just making that higher high. I'm looking for the retest of this area, 0.68 for the long. For me, as long as price doesn't break this low here, I'm very bullish. So we could pull back and get the retest there. We might have a deeper pullback. There's an area here which I'll consider around 0.67, which looks like a good buy. Could even pull all the way back to the low and double bottom here for the push. As long as price doesn't break through this low, I am looking for us to go and hit those levels up there. So effectively, as long as price doesn't break structure on the daily chart. So the swing bias is very much at play. And for now, this looks like the most logical bet of a trade. If you break through, it's probably not going to do that all in 1 week. So this will be the next area, but I highly doubt we'll be trading at that level by next week, Friday. So for now, we're just going to look at this high here. I can refine that a little bit down the 4 hour. So around the 0.682 area. If you can get a pullback to there, that'll be great. Fantastic. Looking for some entries there. And then, if we pull back from here, that looks like a pretty healthy target. If you want to look for the home run, you got some targets up there as well. Big psychological target, 0.7. That could be a nice target there to look at as well. So yeah, very bullish on Aussie dollar. Hopefully we can get the pullback into 0.682, but looking for pushbacks to highs and a lot further as well next week. Okay, so over to NZD CAD. So it looks like NZD CAD is finally committing to the upside here. We're seeing some momentum now, and I'm starting to get a bit more of a sense of what NZD CAD is trying to do. I haven't really been looking to trade it at all for the past probably 2-3 months. And being a big fan of the price action, but we're starting to gain some momentum. Really nice candle closure this week, breaking the high. So now we're getting some consistency in the market. We've got the low, high, higher low, higher high, higher low, and again another higher high. So slowly we're pushing up. I've marked out this big weekly level here as the next big level in the market. That's probably where the market is going to be attracted towards. Market breaks through one level, where is it going to move to the next big level? And to me, that is this area here at 0.875 in the weekly. So there is a lot of room for us to push into, and as long as we maintain these higher highs and higher lows, that's where I do see price pushing into. So I'm looking at buys now for NZD CAD. Really strong break of the high there as well. I've marked out a couple of areas where buys look good, which is either the retest of the high there or the retest of this high. Again, similar to Aussie dollar, we just looked at, as long as you don't break structure, which will be this low here, I'm looking for us to maintain this bullish trend here. So if we do pull back and see some downside, I'm using that as an opportunity to find some buys, because my thinking is if we're pushing down, I'm not expecting it to last long because the move is to the upside. So I'm looking for those buys, and of course not buying anywhere. It has to fit the plan. But if it does that, I'm taking the buy and I'm looking for a lot more upside. Again, healthy target could be right back to the high. It doesn't have to be a phenomenal trade all the way to those higher time frame targets I suggested. I'll be trading stops anyway, so I'll just see how far I can take the position. But from a top-down perspective, I do believe we've got potential to run. So yeah, NZD CAD, keep an eye on 0.851 and 0.846 for some buys next week. Okay, so pound NZD up next. So it's been difficult to get involved with pound NZD because it has just been consolidating for quite a while in this range here, but it looks like it's slowly committing to the downside, and I'm liking that. For the past couple of weeks, I've marked out this high and this low as some nice areas to look at for some opportunities. I've said stay away from the range, wait for price to push up or push down, and then look for opportunities for the buys or the sells, depending which way we push, because trying to look for opportunities there is always going to be very chaotic and difficult to find good stop losses and good entries, because we're just moving all over the shop. But now that we have broken to the downside, we've seen some nice momentum. I have marked out a really nice big level here on the daily chart, prior resistance there. Hopefully it can act as support. We're still pretty consistent with these higher lows here, so there is a good cause for us to believe that we could put another higher low and push up. I still think the bigger move for pound NZD is to the downside, and I am looking for a really big reversal. But for now, we could probably get some nice buys off that low for 2-3 days even, and then still get the rollover as well. Of course, if price just breaks straight through, I'll reanalyze and see where we can go from there. But for me, with these high lows still at play, did not mean to do that. With these high lows still at play, this level still intact, I am looking for a buy. So I want to see us go and test this level, because last time we had that push down, we just missed it by a few pips. I'm very kind of accurate with my levels. I want price to actually test it. So this didn't count for a buy, but if we do push down a little bit deeper this time, hit the low, that's an area which I would like to buy from next week. Some entries on the 4 hour, look and see if I can catch a really nice swing trade back to the upside. Again, I'll be trading stops, so I won't have a finite target, but if you are looking at finite targets, I think this is a good one if you're looking to really stretch the trade. But I think some of these areas are good points to look out for. Price support around here, kind of the low of this range. I think that's a sensible place to lock in some gains or trade a stop. Even some of the highs here as well, that's some sensible places to lock gains and trail stops as well. So there's multiple targets you can look at, but effectively we're looking for that bounce and seeing if this daily level can hold from 2.099 next week. So that'll be the plan for pound NZD. Okay, so next up we've got CAD Yen. So CAD Yen, another yen pair, expecting a lot of downside for this one. It does look like we're coming back into that 105 area, so we need to watch out for that. But I do think we'll break through and start pushing back to this area around 100.8. I'm looking at this being our lower high in the market, and I'm expecting continuation. So the analysis is pretty much the same thing with these yen pairs across the board. We've had a big push to the downside in July. The past August and September for me has just been a correction / consolidation, and I'm expecting that momentum to enter the market and continue. So I'm looking for us to push back down into those lows there, and of course after that really aggressive reaction on Friday, I think that could be the catalyst to really get us going. So if you're on the intraday level, I think you're just looking for some corrections, pullbacks to get into that trade, because we're already seeing that momentum. So if the market can have a slight pause, a breather, that could be a great opportunity to enter some shorts and ride that momentum on an intraday level and really refine that stop loss as well to maximize your risk to rewards. This low here around 103 looks like a very sensible target to have, especially intraday as well. Like I said, there is room to the downside, but it just depends how you want to manage that trade. I think a push that low looks phenomenal as well, and that could definitely be done by next week as well. So expecting a little downside for CAD Yen. I marked out this area here, some really strong support to keep an eye out for. 103 looks like a nice target, and maybe some extended targets around the 101 area, but that will be the plan next week for CAD Yen. Okay, so next up we've got Pound USD. So Pound USD is actually probably one of the cleanest charts there is right now. It's just really clean with the trend. It didn't start off that way, but since momentum's kicked in and we've seen some really nice swing points, highs and lows, the price action has just been really sensible. Breaking retests, lovely pullbacks, clean swing points. It's been really easy to read, and I'm just expecting more of the same really. As I've said, I've been really bearish on USD, still am. Still think there's more downside. I'm just kind of hoping we can see a bit of a breather and some upside for dollar, some strength for dollar, and then hopefully we can see price sell off. And that may give me an opportunity to trade pound, because I'm looking to trade pound USD in the breaking test of the high here, but we do need some dollar strength, some pound weakness for that to come into play, so I can find those entries to take it back up. We had that breaking retest over here, which we were looking at, really nice breaking retest, sensible. I think pound USD was the better trade because we had the breaking retest here, and we also had a nice entry on euro breaking retest as well. I chose euro, but euro's been a lot more choppy, it hasn't moved as clean. Pound's broken high and has looked really nice, so maybe I should have chose pound. But yeah, if pound does give me that retest, it looks a lot better than euro now, so if that's the case, I'll definitely go with pound. And yeah, looking for a breaking test of 1.328 and some swings back to the high. I'll look for some entries in the 4 hour. You could probably refine that to the hourly and maximize your risk reward, but I'm just going to be using the 4 hour for all my entries from now on. So that's the plan for pounds, expecting a lot more upside. The trend is still intact, and I do expect that big retracement to come soon, but at the moment still very bullish on pounds. So keep an eye on 1.326 for push back to the high next week. Okay, so over to pound CAD. So pound CAD, which is a similar pair to pound USD, and also giving us a similar opportunity to pound USD as well. A clean breaking retest. You can see the swings of the market have been pretty clean as well, similar to pound USD, which we just mentioned, and the market has been flowing pretty well. There is a big level above us on pound CAD, which I'm staying wary of, around 1.82 roughly. This big level on the monthly, I do think that's an area where we can possibly reverse from. We've been flying to the upside ever since that big kind of crash with pound and price pushed down to 1.4. We've just been pushing to the upside since September 2022. So it's been a while this uptrend has been at play. I do think coming back into such a big high, we probably will take a bit of a breather. So longer term, I do see downside for pound CAD, but for now, we do have a really nice uptrend, which is still at play. And if that can get us a pullback to that high, that to me looks like a really nice place just to look for some entries, call that next high low, and again, similar to pound USD, look for that continuation. So if I can get that break and retest on pound USD or pound CAD, I'll be happy finding entries in that area. And again, nothing crazy, just taking it back to the high. And yeah, at some point I do think that reversal will come, but I need to see some signs of that reversal, double tops, break of structures, lower highs, and then I'll start speaking about the shorts. We're nowhere there yet. Price is still giving us higher lows, so the shorts are still a little bit too premature to speak about for me anyway. So yeah, longs look good, 1.784 roughly, where I'm looking for my entries, and yeah, looking to take that back to highs next week. Okay, so over to pound yen. So pound yen, like I said, currently still in a position here holding this one, and I do expect a lot more downside. I'm looking for roughly around 179, 180 as where I expect the market to go. I'll be trading stops so I can just see how far I can take it, and hopefully it can be a really big trade. But we're looking for at least a push into this level in the next few days, couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks. I think probably actually happen quicker than that, but yeah, expecting a lot of downside for pound yen. So the idea is, as long as we can hold this high, I'm expecting us to start, kicking off with the trend again, and this to be the next lower high, or maybe the first lower high in this bear sequence. We had the high up there, big push down. That to me looks like the lower high, and now I'm expecting price to go and take out the lows there for some new lows. So in terms of finding opportunities, again from intraday level, we had such a big meltdown to the downside. We've got these kind of intraday levels here we can look at to short from, find some intraday opportunities there, stops above the high, and then again you're looking to catch some swings. I think a push to the low here looks really great, 185, especially if you can get some refined intraday trades there. You're still looking at a really big trade, maybe 1 to 5s, 1 to 4s, 1 to 3s even. These are all really nice risk rewards should they play out. Of course, there are some extended targets. If you want to leave some positions to run, the potential is there for these yen pairs, but in terms of intraday setup, this kind of taken out a lot of early traders with stops above the high, including myself. So now that we've had that big sell-off, we're expecting momentum to really kick off now. So if you can get some pullbacks, that would be great. Find some entries on the retest, and yeah, at least for next week, I think there's a good possibility we do push back to 185, 184 for next week. So that's the analysis going into next week for pound yen. Okay, so next up is gold. So gold has just been very, very bullish. It's been difficult for me to find entries because we've been a little bit too bullish actually. But yeah, I've been looking for the breaking test of the high there, never got it. Looking for the breaking test of the high there, never got it. And yeah, that's kind of the only areas which look good for me in the 4 hour anyway to buy from. I've marked out some intraday levels which look good and probably the best way to tackle it, because we're probably not going to see the bigger retracements if gold stays in this kind of exponential bullish trend. It's just going to kind of keep pushing like that. So the best way to tackle it is scaling down, finding those smaller pullbacks until we get that bigger retracement. I spoke about this area here as a nice place to buy. It looks like price kind of faked it below. I say that because we're kind of leaving some big wicks down on the higher time frames, but on the hourly chart we get some candle closures. But essentially these are the two areas which look good for buys for me on the intraday level, and to swing it back to where we came from, 2680. I think that looks like a really nice opportunity. So if price was to get back above this, use it as support, could be some nice entries there early next week. Or if we were to bleed a little bit lower, I still like this level here as well for a buy. If you do go for a bigger retracement, then 2590, 2589 is still the area which I want to buy from. Again, like I said, I'm not too confident we get there, so I'm not really too focused on gold. If we do see a big sell-off, then I'll be ready, but I'm not too sure we do that. I think these areas on the lower time frames are the more realistic opportunities, so I'll keep an eye for that. If you're looking to trade gold on the lower time frames, these two levels look like really nice places for some buys. And yeah, just expecting more of the same for gold. There's no signs that this is slowing down just yet, so I'm just expecting new highs next week and more upside. So that's the plan next week for gold. Okay, so over to Bitcoin. So Bitcoin still in an interesting area where big shorts look good. Bitcoin has been respecting this channel for quite a while. You can see the upper end every time we get there. We respect it really well. Same with the lower end as well. And I'm expecting more of the same. I'm expecting price to remain in this channel until we break out. I know that sounds a bit, but the thought process is that if we do post the highs, I'm expecting price to reject it. So I'm getting ready for some sells. Doesn't mean you sell straight away. You look for evidence, you look for entry triggers, you look for your setup still, but the anticipation is that price is going to hold it. If we get the breakout, then of course I'll reanalyze and look for opportunities in the opposite direction, because if we do break out, then I'm kind of expecting another bullish phase like we had over here. If we do get the breakout, looking for some quick minor retest, and then I'm expecting Bitcoin to be on its way. So if that's the case, we'll speak about the buys and the breakouts. But for now, still anticipating some sells. So it does look like we're breaking through this first area here, so we can kind of get rid of that. That's not holding. But as we approach the upper end of the trend line, around 66, 67K, I do think that's a nice place to be looking for another sell. Again, if we're wrong and price does get the breakout, then we're looking for the breaking test of the high here, and then we can speak about some buys there, or maybe the 4-hour chart to take Bitcoin to the upside. But that would be the bullish setup. We're not there yet, still trading well within the range, so looking for us to see some downside. And if we get the breakout, we'll discuss that at another date. But for now, looking for some shorts around 66k, and if we see the full swing, could be seeing a push all the way back down to 50k there for Bitcoin. Okay, so last but not least, we've got a bonus pair, which for this week is Aussie CHF. So I'm really liking the downside opportunity for Aussie CHF. I do point out with the yen pairs, when they do tend to see some downside, so do the CHF pairs. So my bias is correct with the yen pairs, and they do see continuations of that big drop we had in July, which CHF pairs also did, by the way. You can see here for Aussie CHF, big drop to the downside, similar to what the yen pairs went through. I do think we'll probably see the Swiss pairs as well carry on to the downside too. But that's not the only reason why I'm looking at downside for Aussie CHF. Higher time frames as well, which I do spend a lot of my time on to create my bias. Aussie CHF is still very, very bearish. I've been expecting us to pinch this low here and take out that low. A lot of the CHF pairs have seen new all-time lows recently, but Aussie CHF is the only one that kind of didn't, or maybe one other. And it just missed out the wick low here. There'll be a lot of liquidity underneath this area here as well, so I do think we'll eventually go and pinch that low. So in my book, Aussie CHF has still got reason to push lower. Not only that, we're just in a really healthy trend as well, and as we push back into a really strong level, which is the retest of this low here before we had that big break, that to me looks like a really nice place where we can see some downside, because effectively Aussie CHF has been in a big range, and this kind of be viewed as a big fake out essentially of the range, equally with this low here as well. And now price is back at the high of the range essentially, which is this area here. I do think that's a really sturdy level of support and resistance on the daily chart, which we can see here, which has proven to really reject price really well in the past. I do think that's a sensible place to be looking for some entries and try and catch a swing back to the low, and we can see where we go from there. Maybe we get a breakout, but I think from a short perspective, with such a big drop there, this looks like a healthy correction to me. If I whip out the Fibonacci from the low to the high, you can see we've already pulled past the 50, past 0.618. So for me, it's already a healthy pullback for us to continue. So if we can see that retest, that'd be great. I know we're looking a bit bearish now. I'm kind of hoping we push up a little bit more next week, get to 0.586, which is roughly where the level is. I'll be looking for entries in the 4 hour, stops above the level. And yeah, let's see if I can catch the full swing to the low. Again, risk reward looks really good should this trade play out, but a lot of room to the downside, a lot of potential there. Keeping a close eye on Aussie CHF, hopefully we can get that pullback and some shorts around 0.587. And that, guys, does bring us to the end of the analysis. If you have found it useful, please be sure to smash the like button. It really does help out the channel. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already and you're finding the content useful. And of course, make sure you do hit the bell so you don't miss out on any streams or uploads in the future. Comment down below any pairs you guys are looking to trade next week. I'm interested to find out. But guys, really do appreciate you tuning in. Have a great weekend, and I'll catch you all in the new week.